Hey guys, my name is Matthew, and today we're going to be talking about the real benefits of reading fiction books. That's as opposed to nonfiction books. Why fiction might actually be a better thing to read than nonfiction. And in this video, we're going to be discussing 6 specific benefits that come from fiction reading as opposed to nonfiction reading. Here we go. Okay, let's jump right into this thing. Let's start with vocabulary. Here's this great study from this website called Test Your Vocab. I love this chart. In the study itself, they say that the chart is really fascinating for 2 reasons. First, because they didn't expect the results to be so clean. Of course, at some level, it makes sense that reading fiction books would improve your vocabulary more than reading nonfiction books, because there's just tends to be more vocabulary in fiction books. But they found that the results were very, very clean. If people read a lot, their vocabulary tends to be more. If they read fiction more than nonfiction, or if they report that they read fiction, quote unquote, lots, then the line's very clear. If you read fiction, you have a higher vocabulary. And so, the takeaway here is reading fiction is really important to improving your vocabulary, which we looked at in a previous video. Improving your vocabulary actually does make you seem smarter to other people. And so it's a really key idea. Read more fiction if you want to feel and seem smarter and literally improve your vocabulary. They basically just asked a bunch of people, do you read a lot of books? If you read a lot versus somewhat versus not much, and then fiction, lots versus somewhat versus not much, then the results were just very clean. It's very evident that people who read more have a higher vocabulary. People who read fiction more have an even higher vocabulary than people who read lots of nonfiction. Okay, the next one we're talking about, I think some people know this already. It seems kind of self-evident at some level. And so people think of nonfiction as the way to improve your intelligence, but there are certain types of intelligence that nonfiction just doesn't improve. And there's a sense of social intelligence and empathy that doesn't get built from nonfiction. And I mentioned this particular one or something similar to this in a previous video. And this actually, a commenter said, hey, you should make one more just about fiction. And I was like, actually, you're right, I should. There are lots of benefits to reading fiction as opposed to nonfiction. And so there's this great study about how fiction reading influences empathy. This particular one basically shows that it does. There is a positive correlation between how much fiction you read and how much empathy you have. And that result is almost immediate, actually. So if you have someone read a short story, something like that, then the empathy that gets built right away from reading that short story as opposed to a nonfiction piece is pretty high. So it just has immediate effects, and they've shown long-term effects for empathy from fiction readers as well. So if you're looking to build your social intelligence, if you're looking to be more socially adept, reading fiction is a great way to kind of move that forward and to move your social IQ higher. I'm going to reference a research study that I've already referenced before. This particular one is about keeping Alzheimer's at bay, or mental decline, cognitive decline later in life. What they noticed, or what they've recognized based on surveying people at an old age, they asked these questions about like, hey, what did you read when you were young? What did you read when you were kind of in middle life and then older life? And they asked them about reading. They asked them about reading magazines and books and also some other things as well. But what they found was if you read early in life, middle grade in life, and kind of later in life, you're much less likely, on average, to have cognitive decline that affects you in any kind of way. They actually did autopsies of their brains after they were dead and found, hey, actually, they could tell whether or not someone had read early, mid, and late in life. And it wasn't just nonfiction. It wasn't like how many self-help books did you read. It was actually things like magazines and books that made a difference, not just nonfiction. So cognitive decline, if you enjoy reading fiction, this is a great way to make sure, hey, I want to be an older person who can still think and reason and isn't just kind of a vegetable or whatever. A great way to do that is keep reading fiction. Now, I think one thing we've heard a lot from like the fiction community in general is this idea that Harry Potter helped them to feel like they were able to include people better, like they had a better understanding of inclusivity. And so there's been some studies done surrounding this exact idea. Here in this study, the abstract says that they conducted 3 studies to test whether extended contact through reading the popular best-selling books of Harry Potter improves attitude towards stigmatized groups like immigrants, homosexual, and refugees. Results from one experimental intervention with elementary school children and from 2 cross-sectional studies with high school and university students supported our main hypothesis. So yes, the answer is, according to these studies, that actually you are more likely to be inclusive and to be willing to understand different perspectives if you are reading fiction. And there may be specific fiction books that are better than others, but in this case, Harry Potter, which is a pretty easy read, and it's a lot of fun, people enjoy this world. This book helped people to be more inclusive towards marginalized groups, which is great. So if you're wanting better perspective and better empathizing tools, then this is a great way to gain that inclusivity and have a better understanding of other people's perspectives. So there's this great study done at the University of Sussex where they took people, they stressed them out, they had their heart rate going like crazy, and then they tried different things like meditation, listening to music, drinking tea, going for a walk, playing video games, those types of things. And they found that reading for just 6 minutes, only 6 minutes of reading, reduced stress by 60%. It slowed the heartbeat, eased muscle tension, and altered your state of mind. They actually compared it to meditation. They say it puts you in a meditative-like state. And it does, much better job of reducing your stress than a lot of things that people think of as, stress reducers. And so reading is a really, really great way to kind of put yourself into a place where you're feeling, where you're reducing stress. If you have a lot of stress in your life and you're saying, what's an easy way I can do that? Apparently reading for just 6 minutes, fiction specifically, this is not for nonfiction, this is fiction. Reading fiction for 6 minutes puts you in a significantly less stressed out state than you were before you started reading. So this is a really big deal. This is a huge deal for if you're looking for stress reduction in your life, read more fiction. Now, related to that, I don't have a study for this. I looked a little bit. Let me know in comments if you know of any studies that have looked at this, but I know there are like really big name people like Tim Ferriss, that they sleep better when they have read a book, a fiction book, right before they go to bed. And this is one of the most common times for people to read is right before they go to bed. It's just a natural, it's a good time. You're kind of calming down. Apparently it puts you in a meditative type place and it helps you reduce your stress. And so I put a lot of weight in this. I actually think that reading could help you sleep better. I think reading fiction helps you sleep better. So here's a bonus 7th one. I'm gonna get one more in after this, but I think reading might actually help you sleep better. There are no research studies on it, so if someone wants to, put some money into that, find out how does fiction help you sleep better. Is that true? Is that not true? Let me know if anyone has any ideas or knows any research studies that have looked into this. Okay, lastly, reading fiction actually helps you to feel more satisfied in life. You're a happier person if you read fiction more often. A point again to a study from the UK, this particular one asked a bunch of questions for people who called themselves readers versus not readers versus lapsed readers. And for people who read frequently and were still reading frequently, they found that they were very satisfied with their life, that they had high self-esteem, that they were happier, that they could make better decisions. Just overall, they thought they were just much better. This is self-reported, obviously, but people who claim that they're readers, that they read on the regular, that they regularly read fiction or nonfiction, they were just happier. So if you want to be happier, read more books, read more fiction. It doesn't matter, people I think get kind of elitist about nonfiction. It's like, oh, I read a lot of nonfiction books, or I read really old literature or whatever. Don't be elitist about your reading. Just read, because fiction may be just as good or better than nonfiction. They obviously have different benefits, but fiction may have just as many benefits as nonfiction, if not more, for some really important places in life, such as happiness, stress reduction, inclusivity, empathy, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there are tons of other studies too. These aren't the only 6 benefits to reading fiction. There are so many that honestly really do improve your life. So I encourage you, read more. The more you read, the better you feel, the better you are, the more vocabulary you have, and there's no reason not to read more. It's fun. You enjoy it. It takes you into a different world. So this has been my 6 reasons to read fiction. Why fiction might even be better than nonfiction. If you enjoyed this video, do feel free to like and subscribe. We put out all sorts of content like this surrounding the book community and book reviews and things like that all the time. So thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay safe out there.